funding, and that's going to be in place for 5 years. So that, again, that's new. We've in the past we've allowed past recipients to receive funding again, but what I feel like we've been seeing happen is just the same recipient is receiving multiple repairs over and over and over again. And really the intent is that we want to reach as many people as possible. um, and we just aren't able to do that if we keep uh, giving the same person assistance. So that's going to stop this round. um, So I just seen a question pop up. I know I said I was going to wait till the end. I'm just going to wait to the end. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to follow um, my own. I just feel like, okay. So let's keep going. The assisted property must be currently occupied. So it has to be occupied. It cannot be red tagged. It has to be inhabitable. Um, and then this program is not, the intent is to not address any mold, animal infestations, anything, along those lines. Those are just areas that we don't want to get involved with. So if you have somebody that applies for those types of things, they would not be eligible. Okay, so all activities, um, they must be insured. Um, you must use a licensed contractor. The lead and asbestos is all, you have to follow local codes, permits, and that must be made by the grantee. Okay, and then every single project must be pre-approved before any work gets started. So we have the IGX system where you are able to create activities, and when you submit them, they will be approved by your champion. So that is your pre-approval is in the system. So Lauren's going to go over all of that in the system of what's required for an activity, but we do look at it. We look at the address, what you're applying for, what type of repairs they're receiving. We want to see before pictures. We want to approve the project before the contractor starts any work. Um, okay. So required inspections, any activities must meet the local requirements. Like I've said, it is expected that the grantee would go out and assess the property before and after the projects. And then the completion must be satisfactory of the work, and we do have a form where the homeowner must sign off and the grantee and the contractor all must sign off on the project after it's finished. Okay, so continuing the expectations. Again, the purpose of NEP is just to improve the quality of life of the residents and to, preserve the neighborhood. That there are exterior rehab, that's a required activity, and it must be a minimum of 50% of your requests. So all of your applications have already been approved. You have set dollar amounts for each component. So you should, none of you should be worried about your percentages, but I just want to mention that you must stick to those percentages, and we have to really be careful because there has been a couple times where, and this is the grantee and your champion must look at the percentage of the projects to make sure that we are not going over on the interior, because the interior must be a maximum of 25%. Now, if you don't have applicants that come in for interior and you want to move your interior into exterior repairs, you can do that, but you can't do the reverse. You can't take your exterior repair money and move it into interior if you to not exceed that 25%. And then the same with the public amenity, it's 50%. We didn't have very many of those in this round, but you would have been in your application award letters. Um, you would have, you know how much money you're getting in each component. So, um, and then a note on the interior repair. We must stick to electrical, plumbing, heating coolers, water heaters, and any deviations from that must be approved by MISTA. So I just want to make that note. And then of course if you've applied for the 10% admin, again, that will be in your budget. Okay, so eligible occupied property, this is what our definitions are. So it must be don't zoned residential. There should be no unaddressed mortgage or tax delinquencies. It's not subject to a foreclosure. The homeowner must have insurance. Now, there are some instances where we've taken, you'll just work with your champion if the home is not insured, reasons, like the repairs that are needing to be done, but will be insured after the repairs. We can take letters from the insurance company, but we just need to know that ahead of time and need to approve that ahead of time. The same with the tax delinquencies. If they're behind, but they're in a payment plan, we need to see that and pre-approve that. The home must be occupied by the residents. They must, it must be their primary residence, and it must be affixed in a permanent foundations. And we do not do any multifamily type properties. They must be standalone single family residents. Okay, so these are a couple items of some um, repairs that we do, or we can't stand we do fencing and we do tree removal, but they must be approved by our champions first. So there's fencing has to be visible. It has to be, it can be for a safety reasons that they need the fence. We want to make sure that they um meet the material type matches what's already in the neighborhood, things like that. So to make sure that those things are happening, we just want to approve the project. We want to know about that beforehand. So the same with the tree removal, this can get very expensive. So we just want to make sure that it's really necessary, and that it's really causing issues to the home and, it really needs to be done. So. Okay, so ineligible repairs, we will not do enclosed porches unless they're visible, and impacts the neighborhood, from the exterior of the home. And, there are some structural, enhancements, like, those are reasons why we would do the interior of a porch. Um, if the homeowner can't get into the home, things like that. But if it's like this is more if it's a like a seasoned room or something, we're not gonna just, do the inside of the porch. It has to be a reason, why it's accessibility reason of why we're doing this interior. The partial paint, we've seen a lot of these where people want to just do, certain sides of the home. If you're going to do siding or any painting, we really want to do the entire house. Um, if there's, reasons why we're not doing other sides, we would have to approve that beforehand. Um, and then,
Jody, can I make one statement?
yep, go ahead.
When you say visible, I just want everybody to understand when you say visible, exactly what you mean. You mean visible from the road, visible
Yep,
from
visible from the road. Those are what the type of repairs we're looking for when we're talking about exterior. Um, but at the same time, like I don't want to leave the back of a house out just because that's not visible. Like if we're
okay.
doing the whole outside of a home, I think we should focus on the whole outside. The only reason why we wouldn't is let's say they did brand new siding already on the back of the house. I could see that. Or if they've painted the back side of the house already and we're just matching the front, the front and the sides to match the back. But I've seen, where we're like they don't want to paint certain sides just to save money, like I don't want to see an after picture of a project, where one side isn't finished, it just that just doesn't set right with me. It's like,
Right.
I want to see a good project.
Yeah, I brought that up maybe like for a garage, if they're doing a garage door or something like that,
Yeah,
and you can't see it, some garages go way back and curve around and you can't see it, like you want it to be visible from the road.
exactly. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
just wanted to confirm what's
Okay. Okay, next slide. Oh no, I didn't finish this. Sorry. So standalones. This last bullet point is regarding, standalone activities. So we say that in our submission instructions too. um, so we don't want a grantee to go out in their applications and just advertise we're going to do all roofs, we're going to do windows and siding. That's not the intent. We want to see multiple types of projects. We don't want to see all driveways, that kind of thing. So we want you to have your scope open, all of the applications that have been approved. There's a variety of types of repairs. Um, so I just want to mention that again. Now if you have applicants that come in and they all are very similar, we will talk about that. Please talk about that with your grantee. That would have to be approved ahead of time. Because, I know that happens. I know you might get 20 applicants and only 10 of them are eligible and they all want roofs, but the intent is not to do one single activity. And you must talk about that with your champion, with me, that we get that pre-approved ahead of time, because once I start seeing FSRs come in every single activity, I'm going to start to question what's going on. And I just want to know about it beforehand if that's an issue, but that's not the way that we should run the program. So, okay. So rehab standards in the new NEP handbook. This was new last round. We do have a new construction manager that joined our team, and he has created the minimum rehab standards for certain types of projects. So that is in our handbook, and that's a great tool for the grantees to kind of go back to when you're doing your repairs. And it just, it's guidance. That covers the safety, decency, and the of the home. So please look at those and read those. They're very helpful. And I can't say enough how great Jim has been. And if any of the grantees, I know some of you, we've had meetings with him, but he's just so helpful. He's so knowledgeable with construction, and if you guys have any questions and we need to reach out to him, he's always available too. So, okay. So after we sign our grant agreements, which Lauren will show you how to do that in the system, um, you guys will need to focus on your program guidelines. So most of you are have done this program, have been with us many rounds. So you know that you can use program guidelines from the past. You just need to update them if your neighborhood scope has changed, if your types of repair have changed, things like that. But program guidelines for the new folks is basically it's an outline of your program. It goes over, the compliance, the requirements, who's eligible, how you're going to do your application process, your selection criteria. We do require, like the complaint, you must follow MSHDA's complaint procedure guidelines. Um, and just basically lays out the rules and expectations of the program you're going to be offering. And what it does is it protects the grantee from any type of discrimination, favoritism, or any unfair treatment. And so that must be made public and it must be approved beforehand, by your champion before you start any of your activities or any of your draws. So in the handbook, there is a section on program guidelines. There's bullet points for every single item that you will need to address. They don't need to be really elaborate. If you just want to put like one sentence for every bullet point, that works. We just want to make sure that you're covering the whole process, and addressing those important questions. And again, it's just so if a neighbor doesn't receive funding, but and they're next to somebody that did, and now they're wondering, well, why didn't I apply, or why wasn't I eligible? You clearly can say, okay, well, this is our program guidelines, these are the requirements, this is why you weren't selected, you didn't meet this or this. And same with contractors. If you have a set procurement process that you use, they can, if they come and say, well, why wasn't I selected as a contractor? Like, this is our program requirements. Please look back to this. This is how we chose them. And that's why we didn't pick you, so that's the purpose of them. And we do require that again before you start any of your projects. Okay, I used some of these pictures from the last round. I'm putting them out here again. So these are just some types of really impactful projects. So this house wasn't in terrible condition, but just needed some, you know, quick repairs made to the front entrance. They look really great, the before and after pictures. Just of the steps, you can see how much that's improved the home. Next. And again, just some simple improvements like that can really just make the home pop out and look really good. So these are just smaller projects. Obviously some of the bigger projects are really impactful too, but some of these smaller ones, this really makes a big difference. Okay, and we talked about, I just want to put out here again, we do have the March 20th all grantee meeting. And so this is the future of INHID, the future of our programs. And I really do um, hope that all of you can join. I know that there is a fee um, for this, so I apologize ahead of time. I think it's $95, Lauren, to attend. We do have some speakers coming in. We are offering lunch, but you can bill it to the program. So that's, I anticipate our grants to be in place by March 1st. So this is something that you could bill towards your admin if you do want to attend and don't have those funds to cover this. I just want to put this out there about the block rooms, because there's the deadline of February 20th. If you do need to stay, we have a blocked rooms at the Hampton Inn for 85 a night. And again, we'll send the PowerPoint out so you can get this reservation link. And I'll add the registration link for the meeting as well, in case you guys missed that. But just some key points about the future is that there's more funding sources coming, so we're going to be talking about them. The public amenity piece is going to be amped up, and you will have additional rehab dollars. So um, I don't want anybody to think like, not to complete this round of NEP, because these dollars are very flexible. So these new dollars will have some different types of requirements on them, but you will have access to more rehab dollars. So those are some of the key points of this conference. So I hope to see everybody there. So I believe that's the end of my section. So I'm going to go through and try to answer everybody's questions.
Okay, let me go through the chat and see if I can find some of them. We get quite a few.
I also want to mention that if you have an outstanding APR, you will not be able to get a grant agreement until that is approved. So just want to put that out there too.
So the first question, can you clarify if the $25,000 max is per address or per recipient?
It's per address.
Also, it's $24,000. And is the $24,000 NHID funding limit a lifetime limit or a project limit? Same question. It's project.
Yep.
Next question, can we remediate mold or similar issues with separate funding while we are also doing NEP renovation repair?
Possibly. I think that we would have to look at that. So like if it was separate leverage dollars to address something, is that what you mean? I don't know who's asking that. Habitat.
Yep.
Yeah, hi. That's what we meant. Like if it was separate leverage dollars or from other repair funds that we have for other projects, could we combine them?
I think it would be something that we would have to look at, but I think that could be possible. So if
Okay.
that's something that comes up, just let your champion know. We could, bring in our construction manager, just take a look at everything. And we just want to make sure that everybody's safe. And that we have enough funds. That the fear is if we start to get into something like that, it's so expensive and we only have so many limited dollars. And we don't want to open a can of worms, so I really would want to see him look at the project, but that could be possible.
Makes sense. Appreciate it.
Yep.
If the homeowner did not receive the maximum award amount, can they receive the balance in the next round with updated info?
Not this round. I mean, that's asking basically if a homeowner can receive additional funds, if I'm reading it right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
So no, they would not. We are not doing the same address over this round, regardless of how much money they've received in the past.
The next one, previous awardees who wait 5 years must be first-time home buyers.
No. I'm not sure what that means. It's nothing to do with first time home buyers. It's just we have the lien for 5 years. So I think that's where we're getting that from. So that's if they've received funding over the 10,000, or in past rounds it's been lower amounts where we place liens on the property and they're in place for 5 years. So that's why we're saying if it's been 5 years, if they've received funding from the NEP program, regardless of the dollar amount, they are not eligible until 5 years.
The next question, 25% limit for the proportions across all projects, or is it capped at 25% per project? I think that has to do with interior versus exterior.
Yeah, that's what
there.
I'm thinking too. So it's 25% of your grant award, which again should have been outlined in your award letters and something that you would have applied for. So it's 25% of the overall award is limited to interior. So if you have, I don't know, let's say you have, I don't know how to explain it. If you have, usually it's like $12,000 or $13,000 that you might have in interior. That's the 25%. I mean, I can't imagine that you would have a $13,000 project for interior, but you might have one that's 5,000. You might have another one that's another 5,000. So you could do 2 projects. But you can't exceed that capped amount for the 25% you've received. So it's not per address. It's like the total amount of your grant. I hope that answered the question.
You mentioned single family only, but slide indicated up to 4-plex units allowed. Must these be condos?
That's our definition of single family, is technically 1 to 4. I've seen duplexes, we've done duplexes. It just gets a little tricky when we run into the ownership. So I'm not saying we wouldn't do them. We can do condos, but it's just the ownership issue, you know, and making sure that we're only doing the unit that that person owns, you know. And we've also done like on the duplexes, if it's a duplex and the roof needs to be redone, we really should be doing the roof of the whole home. You know, we shouldn't just be doing one side of the roof. You know, so it's kind of complicated, and we have to look at it as a whole. And if we are going to do the whole roof, then both sides of the duplex need to be eligible, that kind of thing. So the other thing is, I didn't see anybody's application that had rental in it. Because that kind of gets into the mucky area of renting, because usually duplexes you have renters. Um, so again, I don't remember seeing any applications that have that in it, but we can talk about it if we do have some people, and we really would have to address that now if that's something that you plan on doing. But so anyway, so I'm trying to answer the question. So they don't need to be condos. They can be either or, I guess is my answer. But we really have to be careful of the ownership issue and making sure that the project is really going to improve the whole, it's beneficial and going to meet, you know, the safety of the and be, you know, look at the ownership when we're talking about repairs. So
That was Jonathan's question, so why don't we just let Jonathan
okay,
get
Jeff,
his hand up?
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I was just curious. I mean, it sounds as though if there's an owner occupant in a, you know, a small multifamily unit up to a fourplex, that there might be potential to perform exterior improvements on that building, which would benefit everybody, including the neighborhood. Is
Right.
that what I'm hearing, or am I misunderstanding?
No, it could be, but again, if that owner lives in one side, but then he rents out the other units, then we're talking about a rental. So that's a totally different territory we're stepping into. So, and again, basically if it's going to be a rental, I believe that there's a lien placed no matter what. We require the landlord to put 50% of the project into it. So we could do something like that.
Okay.
Now, if he only wanted to improve his side, I think we would have an issue, because that doesn't benefit the whole neighborhood if we're only, you know, unless it was like a condo, you know, I don't know. We would just, I think it can be done, but it's something that we're going to have to look at it a case by case.
Sure.
It's not excluded, but
I want to
yeah.
make sure that if we have rehab standards in place, or the project, the program guidelines in place, that we don't end up in an area that we haven't covered. Our community does not have a rental registry, and sometimes we get surprises. All of our other programs for housing rehab are for owner occupants that are income qualified. We use a community development block grant and then a county millage. So this, you know, we may get interested parties that want to explore the limits of MISHTA's new program. And so that's where we want to just be careful
Yeah.
and forward with what we're sharing. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Also, do keep in mind that if rental isn't if you didn't apply for rental, you can't just add rental. So talk to your champion, who's probably me. I have a feeling in your mind. I don't remember.
I am.
Because I think we had a meeting last week. But we can talk about it and make sure that it's actually something you can do if it's something you want to do.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, Lauren.
Yep.
Thank you, Beth.
Next is Neil. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, just my quick question is, so if we have a property that said 5 years between, if they have applied before, if it's a property that changed homeowners, can they apply as well? I had a lady who did work last year, but she passed away. The household and the new homeowner wants to apply.
And it's been 5 years. It hasn't
No,
been
no, it
5
hasn't
years.
been. Is it with the property or the homeowner?
It's the property.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I lost my spot in the questions. Just a second. Okay. Detroit has many two-family flats and side-by-side duplexes. Are these homes ineligible?
We kind of talked about that. I think that you really would, you're going to have to talk to your champion because it really gets into the area of rentals. Um, and it's just complicated. So we can do them, but they really need to be, we have to be addressing that in your guidelines, and we have to make sure that we're following all the rental rules and the types of repairs that we make. We really have to be conscious of making sure that it's going to be beneficial for the whole structure. If that makes sense.
The next one's Helen, and I already don't understand the question, so Helen, you might want to come on. It says program guidelines. What do you mean by they must be made public?
So they're on a website or something. You know, a lot of the cities, they put their program guidelines right on their website. So that's what I mean. Or if somebody walks in and wants you to print them off, you can just print them off and give it to them. Like they should be able to be shared. That's what I mean.
Okay. Next question. What is the deadline for the program guidelines to be submitted to our champions?
This is something my champions always want. And I mean, technically you can't spend any money or do any projects until they're finished. So if I don't want to put a dead stop date on you, but I don't know. I mean, if we start them March 1st, I'd say by May at the very latest, let's have them in because, this last round, I keep trying to make them sooner and sooner so that we can really use the summer as a construction season. So if we're starting in March, you guys get right on your program guidelines, get your applications out. By June, you should be making pre-approvals. We should be seeing them and approving them so that we can start work and really use all of our summer months from June all the way up to October, November to get this work finished. And then you only need to focus on completing and wrapping up your grants in November, December. So that's what I would like to see. So let's put May at the very latest.
Next question. Will we get a copy of the PowerPoint?
Yes.
I think the slide about the new rule that there can't be multiple projects for one property said new homeowners. I believe this means that this is a new rule, not that applies to new homeowners, correct?
That's correct. Sorry, that was confusing when I read it back to myself too. So I apologize. I didn't have time to change it, but I meant like new, like this was a new bullet. That's what I meant, not new homeowners. Sorry.
The next person says, can we do the program guidelines now instead of March?
You can work on them, but I can't pay you for working on them until your grant agreement is signed. And the anticipation is March 1st. So you're totally able to start them now if you want, but you can't build them towards your admin until the grant starts on March 1st.
If you're grantee that's already has them ready to go, I mean, you could turn them in to your analyst and have it good on March 1st.
Yep.
Is there a program guideline template? Is it on the website shown on the earlier resource slide?
It is in the handbook. So again, there's like bullet points. There's a whole section in the handbook. And so our anticipation, Lauren, for the handbook, we should be having that live for 9. 8 is pretty much the same. There's only just a couple tweaks that we've made to it. So you are able to go out to the MSHDA website, look at the round 8 if you want to look at the program guidelines section. But there's sections in it. And again, you should just have like a little 1-sentence guideline for every section. And if you have any questions on that, ask your champion, but that would be the template, would be in the handbook. And then Lauren, when do you think that the 9 stuff will be posted?
Hopefully next week, because we need to add that. We need to create the form, that form we talked about, and then add it. So that's
okay. Yeah. So we are creating a another new thing is that we're creating a FSR kind of a spreadsheet, I guess, where we're going to encourage more spending. So, what's happens a lot of the time is that we don't get any draws, or the whole entire grant is drawn at the very end. And so we have a lot of grantees that are a lot smaller and really need the money to pay their contractors. So they do a pretty good job of drawing the money down, but we really are pushing for you to draw more sooner. So, but also what happens when I'm reviewing the FSR, it's hard for me to tell how much money you've already drawn on the project. So we're trying to come up with a spreadsheet or like a form where you'll be able to write in, this is this is the activity, we've drawn this amount for materials, supplies, or 50% down payment. In the city of Owasso, if you're on, I love your spreadsheet. We're kind of mimicking it after that. So I appreciate that. It's very helpful for me when I'm reviewing FSR, so I don't have to go back through and look at every single FSR to see, okay, did this address really draw this much money and how much is left? So we're going to provide that to you to be able to draw down basically like percentages of the project. So be on the lookout for that. But I
Okay,
think
so
I
next one
got
is,
off track.
can you explain what an outstanding APR is?
That is the annual profile review. So Devin, I believe you're from Grand Mine. You shouldn't have one out there. So with NEP, because these are MSHDA funded dollars, we have been approved to do a 2-year APR. So that stands for the annual profile review. And that is something that we require of all grantees to go over the organizational and financial capacity of an agency. And so these would only be for the new grantees. And again, I believe there's like 5 of them. And some of you aren't new, you just haven't been in NEP like in the latest round. So, and we used to call them partnership profiles in the past, and now they're annual profile reviews in the new system.
Could you please specify which income levels we should be using?
Yes, so usually we're going to be using 2023. So what happens is, like, when our grant starts and then HUD doesn't come up with the new guideline or the new income limits until like June. So I always just use the year that we're in. So we're in 2023 and they should be out there. They were out there last time. So like when you're setting up your activities or even in the grant, there's going to be an income level link that you'll be able to look in right onto, and you'll be able to look up your county and you'll be able to see it.
I do cover that in my section, so
Okay,
you'll
great.
see how to get there in a few minutes.
Great.
Can we be billed for the training registration?
I don't know. I will ask.
Are the rehab standards the same from round? Let me actually go back for a second. So the training is, if you mean the training, we can't bill for anything outside the grant term. So like this is outside the grant term, but
where's that? Sorry.
Well, the question was, can we be billed for the training registration?
Yes, we can. So I was told that we can, because your grants are going to start March 1st, but the training isn't until the 20th.
Okay. Within the grant term. So yeah.
Which is in the grant term, so you can bill for it. And it would be under admin though.
Okay. The next one, are the rehab standards the same from round 8 or have they been updated?
They're the same.
And that is all the questions.
Yay. Okay, well, I will turn it over to Lauren. And again, thank you, everybody. Okay, so we just had one more pop up.
I was asking if we could get an invoice because I'm unable to register and pay with a credit card.
Okay, well, I will ask. I'm sure we should be able to, but I'll let you know.
Okay, so I'm going to go into activities and FSRs. My name is Lauren Smith. I'm one of the champions with the NEP program. If you have any questions, you can just go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll come back to the chat at the end of my section. The grant agreements will be ready for signature soon. We're hoping for around March 1st. To sign the agreement, your authorized official is going to log into the IGX system and go to the grant that needs to be signed. Once the grant is ready to be signed, it will be under My Tasks. That's on the dashboard. So as soon as you log in, you're going to see this screen that says Dashboard. Under My Tasks, you'll have the grant will be there to sign. So you can click the grant number, which is going to take you into the grant. On the left-hand side of the menu, of the screen, there's this purple menu. If you click Grant Documents, it'll take you to this screen. Each of the documents can be viewed using the hyperlink for that document. Documents with an upload box require an upload. The required documents, depending on the type of agency, they change depending on the type of agency you are. So nonprofit agencies will need the certified board resolution and the grant closing statement, and the program guidelines are not a requirement, but you do need to upload something. So you can upload a page that says like that's a placeholder, or you can upload your program guidelines and your champion can approve them then. If you upload a placeholder, you will need to give us the program guidelines and have them approved before you actually start work on the project, but this is a way to get through the system. Local units of government will need the authorized signer designation form and the program guidelines. I believe that some of these attachments, blank versions, were sent to you earlier in the year so that you could get them signed by your board if you needed some extra time. So if you didn't get those, please let your champion know. After uploading the attachments, the authorized official will scroll up and enter their name and title to sign the agreement. If the name entered doesn't match the user profile, they will not be able to sign the agreement. It'll come up with an error, and that a lot of times that happens quite often. Make sure that their name is typed correctly. Make sure there's not an extra space. That's usually what the issue is. If you can't figure it out, talk to your champion and they can help you figure it out, but it's actually usually an extra space. So once they type that in there, they click Save at the top right-hand corner. Once it's signed, you can click the Submit Signed Application on the left-hand side of the screen under Status Options, followed by OK with the pop-up that will come up. Okay, so we're going to go into activities. To initiate an activity, the authorized official, agency administrator, or authorized signer will log into IGX and go to the NEP grant using My Tasks or in the search menu. Once you've logged into IGX, the system will take you to the dashboard, which is the screen that you can see here. To get to the grant using My Tasks, scroll through the list of tasks on the My Tasks panel on the dashboard. Your grant will show up in this list. Click on the grant number shown here in red to go to the grant. Clicking on the organization's name will take you to the organization information page, not the grant. To use the search option instead, click Searches and up in the top part of the screen. Enter Neighborhood Enhancement Program Grant 2024 for the type and the organization's name under Organization. Then click Search. Click the grant number to take you into the grant. So once you're in the grant, click Initiate Related Doc that's shown here in red. It's outlined in red from the left-hand menu. This will bring up a pop-up where you will select NEP activity from the available document dropdown. Then click Create. The other option is FSR, which you don't want. That's not what we're going to yet. So just hit an NEP activity. Click Activity Pre-Approval Form on the left-hand menu. To complete the activity pre-approval form, you will need to complete the activity data capture, property information, and supporting document sections. So we're going to talk about that form a little bit. For the activity data capture section, you're going to give the homeowner's name and address, enter the amount that will be spent on housing enhancements for exterior rehabilitation, neighborhood public amenity enhancements, and public enhancements for interior rehabilitation. Each activity category must include a number, so just enter 0 for any activity category that will not be used for this specific house. These amounts should only include the NEP amount, not the full amount of the project, unless we're paying for the entire project. In the property information section, you will select the type of property you'll be working on. So if it's single family home, rental unit, or public amenity. You will also include an activity description or a specific location and description of the procurement process methods used to determine cost reasonableness. If NEP isn't paying for the entire project, please include the amount of the full project and who is paying for the overage in the activity description / specific location narrative. Just helps us figure out what's going on.
Can I also just make a quick note
Yeah.
here that if you are deciding to go with a contractor that is not the lowest bid, please also describe why.
We also ask if the specs or work orders have been approved by all parties, if the activities are being completed by licensed and insured contractors, if materials containing lead or asbestos will be distributed or disturbed, and if the activity will use volunteers. The supporting documentation section is a bit different depending on the budget and the type of property. The system will show different required documents depending on how the rest of the form is completed. A single family home requesting less than $10,000 will need before pictures, 2 estimates, and the household income self-certification form. To add additional estimates, click the blue box with the plus mark at the end of the estimate line. You also need to click the estimate selected box to show which estimate is the one that the homeowner selected for the project. Uploads that require a specific form will have a link to download a blank copy of that form below the name of the document. So here you can see underneath household income self-certification form, there's a blue download link. You can click that to get a blank form. A minimum of 2 estimates that are comparable in scope for each activity are required. If the gap between the 2 cost estimates is equal to or greater than 25% of the lowest estimate, a third estimate will be required. Estimates from a contractor must include the name of the contractor, date, and activities itemized by type and cost. Estimates from a store must include dated receipts or invoices and activities itemized by type and cost. Quotes can be taken by phone if they're clearly documented with the date, time, parties on the call, and activities itemized by type and cost. The household income self-certification form is used to ensure homeowner eligibility. The entire form must be completed, including checking every box under the NEP applicant qualifications checklist. The current insurance coverage box can be left unchecked if you have pre-approval from your MSHDA champion. The income limit section, these numbers can be found on the county income limits report in IGX. I will go over how to use that on the next slide. The household gross annual income and the number of people who reside in the house need to be filled out, and it needs the homeowner's signatures at the bottom of the form. You can get to the county income limits report from the grant or from within the activity. Use the purple menu on the left-hand side of the screen to find the county income limits report. When in your grant, you will find the county income limits report under history. When in the activity, you'll find it on the purple menu on the left-hand side of the screen, but it will be under the form section of the menu. This will take you here to the county income limits report. Enter the county and fiscal year you need to look up and click search to populate the report. The bottom line is the 120% AMI that's used for the household income self-certification form. And so you can just take each of these numbers and enter it into your form.
And it's again going to be for 2023.
Yep. A single family home requesting more than $10,000 will need before pictures, 2 estimates, the household income self-certification form, and the homeowner certification form, which is here. So the homeowner certification form is used to ensure that homeowners understand and consent to having a lien placed on their property if the price of the repairs require a lien. The entire form must be completed, including the name of each homeowner printed at the top of the page, signatures for the homeowners and grantee, and the grantee's name and title must also be printed below their signature. A rental unit will need before pictures, 2 estimates, the tenant household income self-certification form, and the landlord written participation and certification agreement. The tenant household income self-certification form is used to ensure that the tenant eligibility. The entire form must be completed, including checking every box under the NEP tenant qualifications checklist. the income limit section, the household gross annual income and the number of people who reside in the house, and the tenant signatures. The landlord written participation and certification agreement is used to ensure that landlords understand and consent to having a lien placed on their property. The entire form must be completed, including the address and names of the tenants and landlord printed at the top of the page, signatured from the landlord and grantee, and the grantee's name and title must be printed below their signature.
I'm just gonna say again, if you are planning to do any rentals, you need to speak to your champion now. And these forms aren't going to show up unless they check that, right, in the beginning?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
These are just all the forms that pop up if you selected rental, then these would pop up. If you selected single family, it wouldn't. Or if you had public amenity, for instance, these wouldn't show up for that either.
And the mortgage documents are only going to show up if your amount of the project activity is over that 9999.
Yep. So this is, if you have a public amenity, then you're going to need before pictures, 2 estimates, and the site ownership documentation.
We can't hear you, Lauren.
It just started reading. It was one of my slides that does that every once in a while. This is one of my slides. It just started reading. I thought you guys could hear it. Okay, when taking the before pictures, keep in mind that the pictures must be in color, and we need pictures of the front of the house that include the house number. We also need pictures that clearly show the reason the project is needed. For instance, if you're replacing a roof or windows, show the damage. Please try to take the after pictures from the same angle so we can actually see what happened.
I also want to kind of go back for a minute. If, like in the description, when you're describing what needs to be done, those items like the windows, it's just nice to see if you can put in there that they were, because sometimes you can't really tell, the visual impact or what the impact is of the project. So if it's, the windows are drafty or, things like that, anything that you can add in there, it helps to approve the project because we know that it's really needed, so especially when it's things like just windows or a door, again, if it's a safety reason, like it doesn't lock anymore, there's no seal, things like that, because it's hard to really tell those types of repairs, but at the same time, they really are important. So if you can just describe, the reason why they need to be done on these types of projects, that helps.
Okay.
And then so one more thing with the pictures, like sometimes we get 500 pictures. I don't really need to see that many. I mean, I just want to be able to clearly see what needs to be done and why. And you can have the option of uploading them like in one document. So that's helpful for me because every single time you upload one new picture, it's like I got to go back and I got to click on this, then I got to click on that, then I got to click on that. So if it's even in a document like this, like where you just create one PDF and you have 5 pictures that I can clearly see, okay, this is what we want to have done and this is why, that's great. I know it's a little bit more work on your end, but it's just so much quicker in the approval.
Once the activity is ready to be submitted, you can save using the Save button in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Using the left-hand menu, click Submit Activity to send it to your champion, or Cancel Activity to just cancel it. After the activity is approved by your champion, the authorized official, agency or administrator, or authorized signer will need to fill out the activity completion form. Once in the grant, click on Activity on the left-hand side of the menu, then select the activity that you want to work on from the menu. The address is part of the activity number, so you'll be able to find the one that you want to work on pretty easily. Click Activity Completion on the left-hand menu to go to this form. To complete the form, enter the date the project was completed and the amount expended. If the amount expended is more than the amount requested in the left column, you will need to send the activity back for revision. Then you'll redo the pre-approval and get approved by your champion before you can go through the rest of the process. You also need to upload supporting documents. Single-family homes that spent less than $10,000 and public amenities will need after pictures, a household participation engagement survey, and an approval and request for contractor payment form. The household participation engagement survey should be completed by the homeowner after the project has been completed. This form is not required if the homeowner doesn't want to complete it, but we would like to get as many surveys back as we can.
Can I just make one, sorry. It was regarding the activities when they're submitted for revision. I just want to really emphasize that if any type of change is made to the activity from the original approval, whether it's an increase, a decrease, a contractor change, if they've changed the scope in any way, you have to submit a revised activity. That is considered, what do we call it? The contractor, it's a contractor change, basically. So I don't remember what we call it on the
We usually call it a change order or something
change
like
order.
that.
Thank you. That's like, what is the word I'm looking for? It's a change order. It's considered a change order. So please, please submit them if any type of change happens to the project. And again, because we pull reports. So if you have an activity that was set up and they were supposed to have a porch and now they didn't because there's more, the certain type part of the project costs more and we don't have enough money to do that. If I pull a report and it's showing that we did a porch, but we really didn't, we have to update it.
And
Thanks,
Jody,
Lauren.
can I say this? Some change orders do require that we forward it to our construction manager, depending on if it's something small, maybe it's something that we can approve. But if it's something large, like there's a change order with the roof, we pulled it off, we seen whatever up under there, now we want to change it, that has to go through our construction manager. And one more thing with the surveys, if the homeowner does not want to sign it, can you please put that on the survey, maybe upload it anyway and make a statement that the homeowner did not want to sign it.
Yes,
That way we'll
that's
know.
a good point too, because our director specifically looks at those.
Yes,
And so she will hold an FSR up if that's not done.
that is
But
correct.
if the homeowner has declined, you can just put that right on the form and upload it as they've declined to answer. And then we already know why it's not done. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go into the approval and request for contractor payment form has changed a little bit this year. It's used to ensure that the homeowner and grantee have signed off on the work before the contractor is actually paid. The entire form must be completed, including the property owner name and address, contractor name, total contract amount, MISHDA payment amount, percent completed, and the description of work, and the grantee and property owner signs at the bottom. Single-family homes that spent more than $10,000 will need after pictures, a household participation engagement survey, homeowner mortgage, homeowner note, and an approval and request for contractor payment form. If the house is using $10,000 or more in MISHDA funds, or if it is a rental, you'll need to put a lien on the property. You can get blank versions of the mortgage and note on our website. They're also in the activity as well. You can or the activity completion section, there's a download there to download them. The mortgage must be filed with the county where the house is located. Before you have the homeowner sign the mortgage and note, please double check the address and the amounts of each of them on each of them. They must be signed by the property owner, and the mortgage must also be signed by a notary. The original mortgage and note must be sent to MISHDA. Anything sent to MISHDA should have your champion's name on it to ensure it actually gets to us. There's a place on the 4th page of the mortgage that tells the Register of Deeds where to send the document once it's recorded. You can write your champion's name there. Rentals will need after pictures, a household participation engagement survey, rental mortgage, rental note, and an approval and request for contractor payment form. So to complete this, you'll save using the save button at the top right-hand corner of the screen. You can cancel the activity, send it back for revisions to the activity form, or submit it using send to activity closeout review required. If the house went over the original approved amount, you will need to send it back for revisions to the original activity form. This will need to be done for each house included in an FSR before the FSR will be approved. Okay, so I'm going to move on to FSRs. To initiate an FSR, the
Can I
authorized...
just, sorry,
Yep.
let me make one note. So the only time, basically it has to be complete if the project is complete. So because we're allowing these partial payments, obviously if you're doing like a down, the 50% down payment, the project isn't completed. So we can't expect that the project will be closed. But if you are drawing, for the full project, we do want to see that the activity is closed before we approve that FSR. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so to initiate an FSR, the authorized signer will log into IGX and go to the NEP grant using either My Tasks or the search menu. Once in the grant, click Initiate Related Doc from the left-hand menu, and instead of selecting activity, you're going to select FSR. This will open a pop-up where you'll select the program enhancement or the Neighborhood Enhancement Program FSR 2024 from the available document dropdown, and then click Create. To complete
Okay.
the FSR,
How did you, Lauren, you were going really fast. Sorry. I'm like, you've already went to the completion. I wanted to make a note about the, when you're completing the activity too, that we do want to see a recorded mortgage. So I know I've had to hold up a lot of FSRs, and I know the problem is that the recorded mortgage comes to our office. And so a lot of times the grantee doesn't see the recorded mortgage, but you can get a copy of it. And it can be handled in a couple ways. Either your champion can send you the copy of the recorded mortgage and then you can upload it, or you can just pay to get a copy of it. I don't remember how much it is. Does anybody know? I don't think it's that much.
it's
But
around
that's
30 bucks.
yeah, you can bill that to your admin too. But the purpose of the IGX system is that we don't have to have any paper technically. So we want to be an auditor to see the full project. Everything is going to be in there. And so it's technically not closed unless that mortgage is recorded. So I really do want to see it in there. Okay.
Okay. So to complete the FSR, you will need to complete the report information and expense detail sections. For the report information section, you're going to select the radio button, determining if this is the final FSR or not. Fill in the current report period. This should encompass all the dates that are on the invoices in the FSR and has to be within your grant period. The expense summary section shows your approved budget, previous expenditures, returned funds, expenditures for this period, total expenditures, and the current balance of your grant. You'll then complete the expense detail section for each house that's included in this FSR. Each house included in this FSR will also need to have an activity in the activity closeout review required. If you need to include more than one line, click the plus button at the end of the expense detail line to add another one. For the budget category, use the drop-down to choose NEP activities or admin. NEP will be used for most of the expenses for each house. For address, enter the address. For description, enter a description for the NEP eligible activity. For amount of invoice, enter the total amount of the invoice, including money that will not be covered by the MSHDA grant. For amount billed to MSHDA, include only the amount of the invoice that will be billed to MSHDA. For supporting documentation, upload the invoices. Each house listed must have an activity pre-approval form completed and approved by MSHDA. The activity completion form must also be completed and approved unless the FSR is requesting a down payment for an activity and not the complete amount. The program administration report is uploaded as the supporting documentation for employee time counted towards administration. For this report, we want to see the grantee name and the current grant number. We also need the employee's name, title, and the report period. The report period should be a date range that covers every date listed in the program admin report. Each line should include the date, task description, the number of hours it took to complete, hourly pay rate, and the total. The total hours and total for each line should be added towards the bottom. They aren't shown here, but the employee signature and the approving supervisor signature must also be included at the bottom of the form. Definitely check your totals here. It's very common for these to get turned in and the math is incorrect. We will catch it. That's one of the main things we look at, and we will send it back.
Did you also mention that there's no date ranges?
No, but there are no date ranges. You have to have the actual date.
Yep. So not like a whole month. You can't just bill a whole month in one line item. It has to be the actual date with the actual hours.
So this picture shows what the entire FSR looks like. The FSR can be canceled or submitted by the authorized signer using the Submit FSR or Cancel FSR buttons on the left-hand menu. After the FSR is submitted, it will be reviewed by the champion, manager, and director within MSHDA. If errors are found, the FSR will be returned for modification. This does take time to get through all of these people, so it's not going to be a couple of day thing. It's going to take a couple weeks to get this through everybody. To return to an FSR that is already in progress, log into IGX and go to the NEP grant using either My Tasks or the search menu. To use the search option, click Search, then Grants, enter Neighborhood Enhancement Program Grant 2024 for the type and the organization's name. Under Organization, click Search, and then click the grant number that's going to take you into the grant. Scroll the left-hand menu down and click Financial Status Report. You will then have a list of all the FSRs that you've done for the year to choose from, and you can just click on that and it'll take you right into the FSR you want to work on. If you have any questions about activities or financial status reports, please email your questions to the Neighborhood Housing Initiatives Division email box that's listed here. And I will go into my questions.
I can read them for you.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one, Helen just wanted to say that it was really helpful to have the forms in advance so that she could get them approved by within her board meeting schedule. So I did want to just mention that we did send in your application award letters that those two forms. So if you were a nonprofit agency, we sent you that grant closing statement and the board resolution form. So those, again, the purpose of that was because usually we'll send out the grant agreements for electronic signatures, and those are required documents that are supposed to be returned with your grant agreement. And so we just wanted you to have them ahead of time. So if you did have a board meeting, that you could take them to your board and get them signed and you didn't have to wait. So I appreciate that comment. That was our intent. Okay, so the next question on IGX, Greater Jackson Habitat for Humanity does not have NEP showing up in their dashboard or in their My Task section. I believe that's probably because we don't have the grant agreements to you yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, so it will show up as soon as it's ready for you to sign, but I wouldn't look for, it's not going to be at least until the first. We are in the process right now. We have an internal document called the staff report that has to go through our legal division, and so that has been signed by me and my director and is now in legal. After legal, it will go to our executive, and then we should be ready to start rolling those grants to you. But don't look for them until the first. Okay. Okay, so a question from Helen. If we have more than one trade in a project, do we just lump multiple winning bids into the space where we check off selected bid? We have elected to, okay.
You can, for that, you can add as many estimates as you need to add, and you can select as many of those as you need to select. So each one should have their own line.
Yeah, that's a enhancement we've made. So, okay, second part, we have elected to not spend more than $9,999 on any property. Do we still need the homeowners to sign the lien certification?
No, that will only show up if it's actually required. So it'll only show up if there's going to be liens.
When calculating totals to determine if a lien is required, is that project cost including admin costs?
No, the admin costs are separate for the NEP grant. It's not attached to the specific house. So the lien is only on the house project.
Yeah. So when you submit activity, it's only for the amount of those repairs. And the only thing you're submitting for your admin is the admin report. So there's an admin report, and that's what you will be submitting, and that's in your FSR. So Helen made a comment that we should tell everybody to save and save again. That's true. IGX does have logout features when you're creating your projects and your activities. Lauren, how long is the logout time?
15 minutes.
Yep, 15 minutes. So if you've been idling for 15 minutes and you haven't hit save, you are going to lose everything that you have entered. Also, if you're in there, but you're just like opening pictures, so if you're opening like an attachment that you uploaded, that does not count as you moving around in the system. You must go from one page in the grant to another, so it reloads for the system to know that you're in there. So just wanted to give that heads up. Thank you, Helen. That's a
The
good
other
point.
thing that you can do, so I can go into here. Right. So this, for instance, is an FSR. There's only one form to the FSR. You've clicked here where it says, can't see here we go. You've clicked here. So this is where you are. You're in the financial status report payment request for NEP. You don't actually have to leave the page, but if you click this again, it'll refresh the page, and that's good enough. And then it won't kick you out.
But that's not gonna prevent you from not losing what you've entered. You do have to hit save to do that.
And then do that.
Yeah, so the clicking back and forth and clicking in the links, that's only to not be logged out. But you should also hit save. Okay. I'm not sure if this is a question, but it just says roof decking is typically a change order that occurs with our roof projects. Once the roof is off, you see the damage. So that is true. We do see that a lot. And if that's the case, if the project increases because of that, that is something that you would want to submit a revision to your activity for, and they would have to provide a new estimate for how much the increase was.
We approve change orders. That's not something you're going to get in trouble for. It's not a problem in any way. It's just that we do actually have to approve it. It's only a problem if you wait till the end of the year and we're like, why did this increase? You have to let us know.
Right. Or if you're submitting the, to be paid for it, and then I'm seeing, okay, well, the scope has changed. You're submitting an invoice for 3 things, but in your pre-approval, you said you were going to do 5, and then we got to go back. Or again, you have an invoice that's for more than what the original approval was for. So anytime it changes at all, you just have to submit a change order or revision. Okay, so Veronica said, when I record, I paid $30 for each mortgage to be recorded. The original was given back to me, and I scanned and uploaded and mailed the original to the address on the last page with my champion's name included. So maybe she put her name in where it's put to be returned.
That's a great way to do it. If you do it that way, send it to your champion. The main thing here is I've had some issues recently where it didn't get to me.
Right.
So make sure you put your champion's name right on there. I spent an entire day searching for mortgages one day. That is a huge waste of my time. So make sure you have your champion's name on there.
Okay. Good point. Okay, Helen says our Register of Deeds office will stamp the mortgage and we pay just a couple of bucks for that so that we can upload. Perfect. That's what I thought. I didn't think it was 30. I just think it's a couple extra dollars to get a copy of it. So if you let your Register of Deeds office know you want a copy, you can bill that to your admin. No big deal. And then you have a copy so that you can upload it to complete your project. Debbie says it would be really helpful for the program administration report to be available in Excel. In addition to the Word document, it's pretty painful to have to double click all the calculations manually. I agree. We've really tried to do that. Maybe we can continue to work on that, Lauren.
Yeah, I tried to do it. I think last year, or the year before, I tried to do it and it
Yeah.
didn't.
It was hard, but
Yeah, we can try it again. I'll put it on the list of things we can try to make it work. Maybe.
yep. We'll do what we can. Okay, so Palencia says, do the signatures need to be a wet signature or does electronic suffice for these documents? So you can use electronic for any of the documents in your grant agreement. When I don't know if you're talking about your grant agreement.
Yep. I typed it right at the time of the grant agreement question. I just want to make sure because because of how our board can vote, and our board can vote electronically, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to make sure they can also sign. So I held off on sending those documents, one until I saw the grant agreement in IGX. But two, I just wanted to make sure I didn't have to physically try to get their wet signature, that they could sign electronically.
Yes, that's acceptable. Okay, and then did you mention annual profile reviews are due every 2 years? That is correct. So for the NEP program, again, because that's MISTA dollars, we have been granted 2-year 2-year reviews. Now, if it's federal dollars, it is a 1-year review. So with this program, we are able to do 2 years. So, and I believe I think Veronica's from Venture, and you should be good because you had one last year.
I was asking because it was on my to-do list. So I think it had a date for 22. So I wanted to be sure that I needed to start working on it.
I don't think you do. I think you have one that's good. But we can double check for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, a yard sign was mentioned. Does MISTA provide the yard signs or template to create? What's the time period if needed to be displayed? So I must have missed that in your slide. So actually we aren't doing yard signs anymore. We've got directions from our executive office that they don't really like yard signs. Now, I think we have some that are remaining, Lauren, so I'm not sure if we can, I don't know, we're going to have to check. We go into the office every Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so when I'm in there next, actually I won't be in there next week because I'll be on vacation, but maybe Lauren can check for me to see if there is any, but I know we can, I believe that we still can provide you the template to create your own.
I don't think we do. I think they all went out last year. So I'm pretty sure we're out of signs.
But I think we can get them the template. We'll double check on that at least. Okay. So when submitting change order requests, what happens if the increase is over the amount designated in the component for the grant? All cost overruns have to be must be paid by the grantee. I mean, we only have so much dollars in our grant. We can't give any additional dollars. So I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, like if it goes over the amount that of your grant. Now, if it's increased from the original pre-approval and you still have money in your budget, obviously you can increase it. If it's increased and now it's requiring a lien, then you would have to put the lien on it. But you should have some kind of reserve or some kind of backup if and that's really why when we're doing these pre-approvals, we're looking at the whole project, to make sure that it's really a reasonable project, because we don't, and again, getting into those mold, the infestation issues, those can open into a huge can of worms, and why we're not really interested in doing those types of projects, because we just don't have any extra money. I mean, we have $2 million for this program and that's it. So. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it actually does. I was just asking because we do actually have reserves and leverage dollars that we use when it goes over. I just was wondering because when you mentioned the change order and submitting it, so even if we're using leverage dollars or reserves that we have for the program, we still submit the change order to you all so you are aware that the cost has increased or there's a change order that's needed.
Yes,
Review.
that's an excellent point. So I do want to see that, even if you are covering it. And again, it's just to make sure that whatever the additional project is, that we know about it and that we approve it. Now I guess if it's like you're adding a new, I don't even know. I just want to make sure that we're not getting into something that we don't want to be involved with, or there's surprise expenses that are showing up in an invoice. I just think that should be, I really do think that a change order needs to take place. So that we just are aware if there is something that's structurally wrong, that we're just not surprised. I don't want to see any surprises when I go in to approve an FSR, and especially if we need to get our construction manager involved, because ultimately the safety of the homeowner, and the quality of the project is what I'm concerned about. And so if any type of, if those types of things change, I just think that we need to know about it and we need to approve it ahead of time. So that is a good point though, because I've seen a lot of those come through where it's increased and that, there wasn't a change order that went through. The invoice was for a different amount than we've originally approved. And it just is a lot of questioning for me and going back and forth, and will hold up your FSR. So to prevent that, and, and Lauren talked about in her part of the training that the FSRs, and we apologize every year. I keep saying that one day we are going to get to the point where we can do wire transfer payments, but it is not our fault. It is our finance system that we use that we keep hearing is going to change. But right now they are just checks. We have to route them manually for signatures and we have to send them by snail mail. We have tried to catch the checks before they go out in finance so that we can actually overnight them. So we're hoping that will increase the time. But right now it is a very old process that takes a lot of routing and time. So again, if we can speed up the approval and everything looks clean and clear, that helps. So it's having those types of adjustments made. So. Okay, so I think Angie mentioned a comment about the recording fee. So that is true that there are a $30 recording fee, but I think for the copy is what's less. But again.
Yeah, they gave us the original when we recorded.
Okay. Okay. Also, okay, so this is from Ann. Wayne County, and we paid $15 for one page and an additional $3 per page, and we are a county department. So that's true. I mean, there are set recording fees. You do have to pay for those. They can be billed to admin, and you can put them in your admin report. And any copies you can also pay or bill it to your admin. So we have another comment where it says, we have had multiple experiences of being logged off as we were actively typing information into the system. And that again is because it's the timing. So if it's 15 minutes and you're just typing, you haven't reloaded that page. So it doesn't, you have to hit the save button frequently. You just have to really be mindful of that 15 minutes. And it's going to log you out even if you're on the page, because it doesn't consider that like a reload. But if you save it, that should be a reload, right, Lauren?
Yes, saving is redoes it, so you're good. You had to save, or you have to refresh the page somehow.
Okay, so Angie said thank you for overnighting. You are welcome. And then Dana talked about the check photo shoots, and Darshell said save your work often. So thank you for mentioning the check presentations. We usually do those, and we are doing it a lot earlier. So we'll send you information out about that. I haven't even thought about it. I haven't even thought about it, but we will do those. I'm sure we will be doing those. So every year we usually do check presentations. Last year we did kind of like a regional one. So we would just we reached out to the grant. So each champion has usually around 12 to 13 grants, and they have specific regions. So we'll kind of reach out to you in a group, try to find if anybody is willing to host, and then we'll just have one location, and we'll have like a one day where all of our grantees can come and we can just take pictures, and then you can use those in your press releases. We have to obviously wait until our grant agreements are signed. So that will be something that will be coming as the next steps. So again, after we sign our grant documents, you'll be needing to get those program guidelines in, and then we will be doing the check presentations. And then Ann said our champion's going to be announced. So you should have received some correspondence from your champion when you did your award letters. So when we've approved your applications, they would have been coming from your champions, but I can go over very quickly who has what. So Angie has regions N, H, L, and K, and her grantees are City of Montrose, City of Owasso, City of Vassar, City of Lapeer, City of Monroe, Greater Jackson Habitat for Humanity, City of Madison Heights, Venture, City of Highland Park, Wayne County Community Action Agency, and Wayne County Land Bank. Okay, so Lauren Smith, her regions are going to be A, B, F, G, and U. And her grantees are City of Ironwood, Marquette County, Habitat for Humanity, City of Stanton, True North, City of Hastings, City of Mount Pleasant, Capital Area Housing Partnerships, Allen Neighborhood Center, City of Springfield, City of Dowagiac, City of Portage, Village of Cassopolis, and New Development Corporation. And then Tiffany, again, she will have all the Detroit grantees, and she is only in Region O. And her grantees are Central Detroit Christian, CDC, New Hope Community Development, Grandmont Rosedale, Bridging Communities, Sinai Grace, Hope Village Revitalization, Woodbridge Neighborhood Development Corporation, Jefferson East, Live Six Alliance, and Life Builders. Okay, we have one more comment from Angie. She said, we found that what works best in IGX is to prep everything in a folder, picks documents to upload before even logging on to IGX. And then it's quick to upload and change the status to submit. That is a good suggestion. I think we have one hand that is raised from Latifa from Greater I think it's Greater Jackson. If you want to come off, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi. Tis I, Jackson Habitat again. But I guess my question is about the pre-approval process, and we're still fairly new to using IGX for working through all of this, but sorry if this is silly. That is so much work to get together all those documents, the estimates, the pictures, the signatures for a project that might not be approved. So like that's what we need for the pre-approval, but that's a lot of time and effort both on our part and on the applicant's part. So I kind of understand doing a pre-screening so that we understand that everyone that we're looking at seriously matches what we've put in our program guidelines. But is there something we can do intermediately to kind of have like a good sense that our projects will be approved before we put all of that time and effort on ours and the homeowner's part in before we kind of get to that IGX step? Because I'd hate to do that and get like numerous rejections of projects.
So, I mean, you can work with your grantee or your champion. You can also, contact me if you have any questions about any type of your projects. But I think the main thing to think about is that, first of all, they have to be eligible. So, I mean, we're not going to deny a project as long as they're eligible. So if you have anything on that homeowner certification form that comes up, like their taxes are behind, if their insurance isn't up to date, if they've had any mortgage issues that might be, those are things that you need to talk to your champion about ahead of time that might not get your project approved. Again, the type of work that you're going to be doing, if you have an application round open and you see all these projects coming in and they all are for roofs, that is something that we need to know immediately, because once you start putting in and entering all that information in, that's going to be a flag, so we need to know about that. We want to talk about it. The other thing with roofs is that, we've seen projects, we're not going to do roofs that are just like soffit, gutters, fascia. That is something that needs to be approved by our construction manager. And the reason for that is that we've had some past rounds where we paid lots of money, $7,000 to $8,000 to do just those types of work, and then it was determined that the roof actually needed to be redone, and that it was going to continue to just have these rotting problems with those types of repairs. So I know that I know it's not I know that's probably not the best answer, but if it's any type of those types of projects, those are things that we can talk about ahead of time. So those are the biggest issues that I see projects being rejected for. Can you think of does any of my other champions want to speak to that? Because I know the other thing is if it's not visible, because the intent of this program specifically, in Greater Jackson, I know that you're in the My Hope activity. And also I want to mention that NEP's projects are so much smaller than My Hope's. We have nothing compared to what they have. It's totally different dollars, a totally different process. It's much smaller, much more streamlined. So I hope that you can breathe a little knowing that. But at the same time, I have seen a lot of grantees in this last round where they have had projects get denied or sent back or whatever. And what I see the most is a lot of the visual things. So if it's not visible, we can't do it. I mean, and we're gonna get pushback from it. So if it's something that really needs to be done, that's something that we can talk about, but I wouldn't put a lot of energy into it. If it's something on the back of the home, it's not going to probably be approved. Another thing is what I mentioned about the interior. We had a lot of things last round where the interior, it just was like, I don't even know, Tiffany. It was like, or maybe it wasn't yours. I think it was Angie's.
Was it the stairs?
There was the stairs. So
The
it's
basement
like,
stairs.
things that are not like electrical, plumbing, water heaters, and furnaces. If it's anything outside of that, if we're talking about leaking, if we're talking about, stuff that's outside of the scope, any kind of drywall issues or painting, all of that is a project that's going to need to be talked about ahead of time before you even enter those pre-approvals. So those are my helpful suggestions. When
I would
when
like to add something too.
Yes, go ahead.
It is kind of rare to get one that I deny. Like it, we don't just deny stuff. We send it back to you to work with you to get it fixed. So it is, if you have something that you think is weird, ask about it before you turn it in, but it is not common to just deny one. You don't usually enter all that information and then get denied.
I agree.
I think I denied one this year.
Any other champions?
I didn't deny. I have, because I'm new and I had to certain projects that I wasn't really sure about. I did have to go to Jody about, and there were quite a few in my portfolio for some of my grantees that I had to kick back. One being an apartment style condo, one being a set of basement stairs, and they really did need to be repaired, but they weren't part of our scope of work. Foundation issues, Jody. Remember, we had one that needed foundation work, and it was like, we can't do that because again, that opens up another big can of worms because foundation repairs can get pretty extensive once they start digging and getting into the foundation of a house. I think that was it for me. Those were the main things that I had issues that got kicked back.
Yep, and
Oh,
I've
and of
seen a
course, like you said, the garages that were not
yep. I've seen a
viewing the
lot
street,
of
that were kind of like down the driveway to the left or right, and you couldn't see it. So
yep. And I remember seeing some that were like cement repairs in the driveway where it was only like a portion of it was being repaired, not the full driveway. But
yes,
there was reasons why it needed to be done. There was a sloping issue where water was pooling and it was running underneath the porch, which was creating a foundation issue. Like I want to replace stuff like that, but I need to know ahead of time if that's what's going on. Because if I'm looking at a picture and all I see is we're replacing this only one section of the driveway and it doesn't really need to be repaired, I'm going to question it. So,
it had like a hairline crack in it. It was like,
yep, yep. So those are just some of the things that we've noticed in the past that you could bring up ahead of time before you enter that stuff in.
Jody, did you mention about if they were using leverage on a project that they should put it in the project description? Or if maybe it's the
Yep.
next box after
Yep.
that. Okay.
Nope, it is. So we do put that on all of our activities that we want a description of what's being, if there is leverage, where it's coming from and who's paying it.
Right. Like if your project is, I don't know, 15,000 and you're not going to go over to 9,999 and you'll say we're using United Way to, after you describe what you're doing, say we're using United Way to cover the balance of X amount of dollars. And then that saves, me reaching out and, wasting your time. And then I also want to say, you guys, like Lauren does an excellent job. She is the one who created the manual. So please, make that to some use. I do get questions. I do not mind assisting, but as you know, we're all very busy. It could be a minor question. You guys refer back to that manual. I guarantee you will probably more than likely find your answer in there. And this just so I don't have to hold everybody up with a late email. It's most likely in that manual.
Yep. So I hope that helps. And I'm sorry about My Hope, or if you have, I'm not sure what the MISH program is, but I know that all of our staff has had to review some of the activities for the My Hope staff, and it was very, very long. Okay, I think it's very helpful to study the manual because it is very helpful. Many of the questions were answered that way. I agree. So I would go back to the manual and kind of go through it page by page just to make sure that you're not missing anything. I really did try to focus on, the stuff that we see, the things that will hold us up. The purpose of the program, but we have a lot of great checklists in the manual too, so that like a checklist of the application grant agreement process. We have or checklists for the activities, checklists for the FSRs. We have examples of application checklists that you can send out, so there's lots of helpful information. I think the other there was one more thing I wanted to mention about FSRs and invoices. A lot of times I've had to send back invoices because the invoice doesn't clearly say what address we're assisting and what repairs were made. So, and then another thing is that the invoices that are uploaded are not the final invoice. So I have a lot of grantees that upload estimates that they were used in their pre-approval. I don't want to see an estimate. I want to see the final invoice of the project. And I need to see the address and I need to see what we're paying for. I can't approve an expense without knowing those. That's the very minimum what I need to see. I need to see what we're paying for, what the address is, and that it's the actual invoice and not an estimate.
One last thing I want to say, Jody, is that I appreciate and thank you all for attending, even if you're a previous grantee. I'm a little sad because a couple of my grantees are not here, not going to call them out, but there has been some struggles with a few grantees understanding how to move through IGX, and I get it, but I'm just a little sad that they're not here.
Okay.
There won't be, is there another meeting coming up or anything, or no?
Not right now. Like I said, the next steps are just getting our grant agreements out, getting them signed. You know, you'll have to get those program guidelines back to us, and then we will be scheduling check presentations. So I will send out the PowerPoint to all of the attendees that were on the call today or that were invited to the meeting. And then we are going to work on trying to get this recording into a format that we can email. Cross your fingers.
That was my next question.
Yep,
Can we
it
share
is
the recording?
always, yep, it's
Okay.
always hard to get that, but that is our plan. So I thank everybody for coming too. I know this is a long meeting, so I do appreciate your time. I hope that I've answered all your questions. And again, if you need anything, please reach out to me, your champions. Use that hidden mailbox if you need to. And that's it. So you guys are free to leave unless anybody has any other questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If my
Thank
staff wants
you.
to just stay on and everybody else can go. Thank you again.